Hello and welcome to the Dogs Code podcast. This is a show about the wonderful world of Dachshunds, their quirky ways and some golden nuggets for owners along the way. I'll be sharing my thoughts and experience. I'm your host, Katie Saywell, and I hope you enjoy the show. The gentle guide to crate training a Dachshund. Crate training can be a really beneficial tool for us as Dachshund owners, offering both a safe space for our dogs and practical aid for house training or just rest if they have an injury and need crate rest. When done correctly, the crate provides a sense of security for your Dachshund and can help manage their natural curiosity and energy. So I'm going to be going through how to approach crate training using positive kind methods. As you know, that is, and they are the only methods that we use. So if it doesn't look kind, sound kind, or feel kind, then we don't use it. And why you might choose to use a crate. So why do we want to crate train our Dachshunds in the first place? So firstly, security and comfort. So Dachshunds, like many dogs, enjoy having a den-like space. So I would see the crate as being like a bedroom for them. So a crate can be a cosy retreat where they feel really safe. House training. So if we're toilet training, house training our dogs, then the crate can significantly speed up some of that house training process as well by teaching our Dachshunds that when they're in the crate, then they hold the bladder. They don't go to the toilet in there. And this works naturally as dogs tend to avoid wanting to toilet in a sleeping area, which their mums would have taught them very early on in their life. If we are travelling with our dogs, so we might want to crate train them to be able to travel a longer distance or just to keep them safe on the journey. And it's a safe space that they know and they can feel comfortable in rather than you being distracted by them doing whatever they are doing in the car. And the fourth one is managing behaviour. So a crate can really help prevent behaviours such as destruction. It can also help with separation anxiety in some cases as well, when you're not able to actually supervise your Dachshund. So if you're not at home and they are getting themselves into a destructive scenario where they're either digging or chewing, then it may be that you use the crate in those circumstances, but only once it's been introduced correctly. So I'm going to go through a few steps with you to introduce the crate nice and gently. And the first one is choosing the right crate. So there are different varieties on the market, as you're probably aware. There are zippy soft ones, there are metal ones, and there are plastic ones that are all relatively suitable. And really what we want to do is make sure that the size is correct. So ensuring that the size of the crate is large enough for our Dachshund to be able to stand up, turn around and lie down comfortably, but not too big that they are using part of it to go to the toilet and the other part to go to sleep. So you kind of want to be setting up a nice comfortable area in there, so adding in a soft bed or a soft blanket, maybe a couple of toys in there as well, just to make it really, really inviting. And you might want to just drop a couple of treats in there as well so that they start to think, oh, this is a cool place. And also not to forget a cover over the top. So if it is a classic metal crate, then you want to make it nice and cozy. You can actually get crate covers. We tend to just use a blanket over the top of ours, or a blanket. Introducing the crate nice and gradually. So have the crate in a place where you want it to stay long term. So I wouldn't advise that you put a crate somewhere where you're going to keep moving it from a kitchen into a hallway, or a hallway into a bedroom, or wherever to wherever. If you are going to have one upstairs and one downstairs, fine, just make them the same rather than having to take it up and downstairs all the time, because that can be really confusing. So making sure it's in a familiar place where your dog naturally spends some time. Leave the door open, let them explore at their own pace, dropping some treats in there occasionally when they don't see you, and that will just encourage them to keep going there. If they do go in the crate and you see them go in there, just gently praise them and drop some treats into the crate, and it will just encourage them to go in there a little bit more. And slowly but surely drop the treats further towards the back so that they have to go in a little bit further, and then over time just build up closing that crate door Sometimes they make quite a loud noise, and not all of our dogs like that metal on metal sound. So what you can do is just wrap some finger plasters, so just a normal plaster, just around the fitting of the door, just to give it a more of a soft close. We would really want to build up positive associations with the crate, and a couple of ways we can do that. One is meal times, so feed every meal from the crate, so have their bowl in the crate, let them go inside, they get their meals, and this creates what's known as positive association. So they associate something good happening while being inside the crate. It also gives you a good opportunity to close the crate door as well, and just before they finish their meal, open the crate door, and that will just help build up some time that they spend in there. Now, we want to be building that time up, so short stays initially, so close the door for literally a few seconds to start with, and then open it while they're still eating, and then gradually increase it up to just before they finish the meal, and then once they've finished their meal, just to get them to just wait there for a few seconds again to start with, building up to a few minutes, and then extend that time gradually, so short intervals meaning seconds, and building up into minutes from there. So increasing that duration really gradually, extending the time in the crate, ensuring that they're nice and calm and comfortable, and using treats and praise whenever they're doing what you like and you want more of. So if they're nice and settled in there, then reward them for it. And then building up to practicing you not being there. So during this time, you're going to be either sitting or standing pretty close, and they're going to be able to see you. But then we want to be building up to leaving the room where they are, or leaving the place where they are, and that is just about taking a few steps to go out of the room, or just at least out of view as a first port of call. So once they're comfortable with the crate, exit, or just move away from the crate so they can't see you. Just take it again a few seconds, so walk out of the room, walk back, so it's a really small amount of time to start with, and then eventually just build up to going to do something in the kitchen and coming back in. Obviously if they're in the kitchen, then go to a different room, and when you leave, don't make too much of a fuss. When you come back, don't make too much of a fuss, as this can really build on their anxiety, which we really don't want to be doing. Be quite calm and matter of fact to show that it's a normal thing, and this is just what happens. You leave the room, when you come back, when they're nice and calm, let them out. And then just going through some common challenges and solutions that owners will face. So whining or barking or crying, initially we don't really want to leave our dogs in any crate to get upset, especially if we're working with really young puppies. We want them to have a nice experience of the crate. We want them to understand that we are there to support them and guide them and love them and care for them, and we really want to build that bond with them as well. So if our dogs are whining or barking, the chances are that we have gone too fast in leaving them in there, and either closing the door too early, or leaving them in there too long, or they might need the toilet or something like that beforehand, which we haven't done. So making sure that you've done all of that kind of stuff as well. If they are whining or barking, if they're older dogs that are used to being in the crate, then just give them literally 30 seconds to settle. If they don't settle, then just walk back in and just stand, and the sheer sight of you should be enough for them to stop, and then you can open the crate door and let them out. So what you're looking for there is the association being built of, it's not just when you come back in and they're crying or getting upset that they're let out, it's when they're actually quiet that they get let out. But ideally, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have them crying and whining and barking in there anyway. It's not productive, it's not positive, and everyone gets stressed with it. The other thing we can look at doing is separation anxiety. So this is on a dog by dog basis, so not every dog that has separation anxiety will like a crate, and we need to remember that. Some will be happy to go in a crate which is open, so they like the small space but they don't want to be closed in. So think of panicking type disorders, think of like claustrophobia. You don't want to be shut in a small space, but you're quite happy to go in a space as long as the door isn't closed. And again, with separation, you would build up nice, short departures. So you'd be leaving really quite swiftly and returning quite swiftly. So within that few second mark, building up to a few minutes, nice and gently. And before doing that, we'd make sure that our dachshunds have actually had a decent amount of exercise and some enrichment as well. So the brain's tired, the body's tired, they're happy just to kind of lay there and watch the world go by. Things that you can add in for comfort. So we've already mentioned having a cover over the crate, but what you could look to do is leave an item of your clothing, or there's a really nice product called Pet Remedy, and you can spray that into the crate onto their bedding or onto a piece of clothing that you're leaving. If you don't want to do that, then they do a plug-in as well, so Pet Remedy plug-in, which you can get off Amazon. We'll put the link in the comments underneath for you. And then really the last thing is about when not to use a crate and how not to use the crate. So first things first, it's your dog's bed, and you've created a bed and a safe space for them. So I wouldn't allow children into that area. I wouldn't allow anyone to be putting their hands into that area either, because honestly we can't see what our dogs are going to do, and the chances are you might get a nibble on the hand if you stick your hand into their bed. So it's always best just to open the door and call them out of the bed to you and let them just come out in their own time. So when not to use the crate, so for extended periods of confinement, so we're not looking for extended periods in the crate. You know, you might have a couple of hours here or there maximum. Overnight is slightly different. If they're sleeping in the crate overnight, then you might have like a full 8 hours in the crate where they go in at night time, they have a biscuit, they go in the bed, good night, go to sleep, and then get up in the morning, which is slightly different to being left all day, every day in a crate. So there is a very fine line there. So we don't want dogs crated all day and all night. Fine if they're asleep at night time. In the daytime, they want to be having breaks out of there as well, because they do need regular exercise, they need that social interaction, and again they need that mental enrichment as well. Punishment, so we don't punish our dogs anyway, but I know that there's a lot of controversial and conflicting information around, and it's really difficult to know what you should and shouldn't be doing. Punishment, if we just don't use it, then we're not going to go too far wrong. But never use the crate as a form of punishment or any bed, because we're looking for it to be associated with good things and positive experiences, so we don't want to undo that by using it as a place of punishment. And lastly, medical issues that are going to hinder. So when not to use it would be, for example, if your dog has got separation issues, around anxiety issues, if they're really struggling to be in a confined space and getting really distressed in there. I would look at some other things that you might want to do instead of the crate. I am a huge crate advocate. It is not for every single dachshund, but a high proportion really do take to it if it's introduced nice and gently. And then lastly, so crate training, a dachshund using positive, kind methods is really beneficial. It includes that bedroom feeling, so enhancing security. So if you've got visitors around, you could use a crate. You could just pop them in. It's easier to house train them if they're crated. Safer travel, so travelling a bit more safely if they're in a crate. And by introducing the crate really gradually and creating that positive association, you can then make it a really comfortable bedroom place and inviting space for your dog that really wants to go into that. And always remember, practice, patience and consistency are the keys to successful training. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.